Om Vidita Kila Shastra Sudha Jaladi Mahitopanishad Katitartha Nide Hridaye Kamale Vimalam Charanam Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam. O Shankaracharya, one who had the entire knowledge of the scriptures, who, as it were, churned the ocean that brought in the nectar. He who preached the treasure like the internal meanings of the great Upanishads. I meditate in my heart on the faultless lotus feet of such a great teacher. O Shankaracharya, be my refuge. There was, the title itself is a more or less a similar one I gave last year. The spiritual Colossus. And it's obvious that he is a spiritual Colossus and no other word could do. So Swami Vivekananda, speaking of Shankaracharya, says, then Shankaracharya arose and once more revivified the Vedanta philosophy. He made it a rationalistic philosophy. In the Upanishads, the arguments are often very obscure. By Buddha, the moral side of the philosophy was laid stress upon. And by Shankaracharya, the intellectual side. He worked out, rationalized, and placed before humankind the wonderful, coherent system of Advaita. That is his contribution. And no name has been so influential as that of Shankaracharya in the history of philosophy. Now, history has got various layers. There's the economic history, and there's the history of the kings and the queens and the wars and the generals, etc., etc. The various layers. There is also an underlying spiritual history of the culture. And it is this spiritual history that sustains actually the entire social fabric. And by contributing to this history, he, as it were, has and is influencing the world of philosophy, the world of spirituality, the world of religion, theology, psychology, everything. No doctrine has exercised more influence than his philosophy of Advaita. I remember saying this a long time ago. Yeah, the world is either for Shankaracharya or against Shankaracharya. He has, in a way, exercised the minds of people. I also remember when I was very young, another senior saying, don't take that boy too seriously. He was just a boy who wrote this entire philosophy. And that boy works are still you can say, the hot debate of the best intellectuals for centuries now. What we express in our teachings, etc., in all these Vedanta societies and Vedanta philosophy, is just a little. I've been studying Vedanta philosophy, his philosophy, for the last, 40 years. And I can say that I have grasped it completely. That is his contribution. Even those who were against his philosophy tried to counter his philosophy, unconsciously imbibed his style of reasoning. Okay. So the traces of his philosophy run deep in everything. So this Shankaracharya, he was a child prodigy, of course. And he was born in what is called a small village in Kerala, which is called Kaladi. The present Ramakrishna ashram in Kaladi is supposedly built on his very birthplace. There's, of course, other huge temples, other temples around. So he was born somewhere. The dates vary. Now, scholars agree that it's around 788 Common Era. There is another date, 690 or 80. Acharya means a great teacher. Shankara was his name, and Acharya. The entire Pujyapada, Srimad Bhagavat Pada, Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya. He was the highest class of souls, as it were, that ever walked this earth. Orthodox views are his father was Shiva Guru and his mother was Aryamba. And Shiva Guru was a descendant of him. His father was Vidyadhiraj. And the father, Shiva Guru, after he completed his studies, he had married his wife. And for many years, they were childless. So they used to pray to the Lord Shiva for a son, for an offspring. And when they were quite advanced in age, after a lot of tapasya, that is spiritual austerities, Shiva one day appeared to them and said, I am pleased with your devotions. I'll give you a son. But do you want a son who is bright, smart, but short-lived? Or many children who are the ordinary ones? So obviously, they chose the former. And it was granted that the boy will live only for 16 years. That was his lifespan. Well, he got a son. His father soon passed away, and then his mother brought him up with great love and care. But with all these kind of prodigies, it was difficult, to raise a child who was of that stature. And traditional accounts state that he had mastered the Vedas by the time he was about 4 or 5 years old. Now that takes about 50 years generally to master something like this. But he did it. And not only the Vedas, the ancillary scriptures are there. So he had mastered all of them, including, of course, grammar, which you need to understand the scriptures. So this was the child. He grew up constantly in that high intellectual, you can say, atmosphere. His teachers, we don't know who his teachers were, but it's probable that it was a village Vedic school where he used to attend. There is, however, another legend where he was always accompanied by another similar looking boy of his age. And of course, that little boy was invisible to everyone else except Shankaracharya. He was death. Now, why death? Well, if you want to understand life, you have to understand this. Because death and life are not two separate things. So, he understood life. And then that boy was joined by another boy on his father's death. He was called knowledge, Jnana. So here he had the knowledge of this world and everything in it, because death stalks everything. Everything, even when we are alive, it stalks us. And knowledge liberates. So it's possible that it was a way of kind of saying that he had a knowledge of life and death, lower life and higher life, etc., even when he was very young. There are differing accounts. One great commentator called Anandagiri, he says his father was Vishwajit and his wife was Vishishta. And so there is a kind of a difference in opinion. However, the rest of the story kind of continues in that same vein. So here he was. This was the boon that he had received from the Lord himself, that he will be something extraordinary. As he was growing, he was about 8 years old. And now he wanted to kind of renounce the world at that young age. So that renunciation comes, how? Through knowledge. When you build up your store of knowledge to such an extent, then you can easily detach yourself from everything. When you attach to things and people, know that there's a lot of ignorance there. So renunciation and detachment comes naturally with knowledge. It's called Jnana Sannyasa. So he wanted, and then you think a mother will let a little child leave home? Impossible. Though she knew who he was, and yet the love, the mother's love always triumphs over all things. So one day he had gone with his mother to bathe in the river, and a crocodile catches his leg and tries to drag him in. And his mother had panicked and she was screaming. He's saying, "You give me permission to renounce the world so I can die as a monk." And the mother is, okay. And somehow the crocodile, there was no crocodile, it disappeared, whatever. And now he says, okay, now you gave me a permission, now let me go. So this was how he kind of detached. Now, it could be that it happened. It could be that it's another legend that grew around how he left home. There's also the other legends, that when he was invested in the traditions for studying, one has to accept alms from people around. Because in those days, it was incumbent for a student to go and beg the food, holy alms. You don't have to waste your time in cooking and cleaning up and all these things. You keep on studying. So he had said, I'm going to take my first, you can say, alms from a particular woman. Now, she was poor. And so everybody were kind of aghast at it. No, you can't take it from her. Take it from respectable people. Say nothing to her. I've given her my word, and I'm going to take it from her. You remember the same thing had happened in Sri Ramakrishna's life. He also had done the very same thing. So that poor woman had nothing when he arrived. So she searched and found a small myrobalam. And she gave it to him. And he was so touched, he sang a hymn to Mother Lakshmi, who showered golden myrobalams on the place where she was living and flooded. That is, in return, he gave her the wealth. And there are other things like another legend, the place where they lived, that was some distance from the river. That's a Purna river. I remember walking from there. It's quite close. So to avoid that kind of journey, because mother had kind of was seeing that it was difficult, he had the river change its course, that now flew near their house. Okay. So his life was kind of was full of these miracles. That is generally what happens with somebody with these kind of divine qualities. So as he was permitted to leave, his mother elicited the promise that you should come at least when I'm going to give up my body. So he had promised her, yes, I'll do that. So he had left the village, and the whole village was kind of sad as usual, because he had become well known all over the village. He started his journey from Kaladi, which is down in the South India, walked right up till Omkareshwar. That's an old temple now there. Of course, rebuilt over the years. And the journey was about 1,800 miles, something like that. So on his way, he saw the superstition, the ignorance, the kind of wrong knowledge that people had, and he went around correcting those superstitions, etc. Reasoning with people and asking them to be more kind and compassionate, etc. Bringing them to the real spirit of the scriptures, not on some arbitrary distinctions, social distinctions. So he kept on walking. How did he know where to go? Well, his insight showed that his guru was waiting for him at that place. So he walked all the way. Yes, staggering. to think about it. And then the river Narmada, there's a river called Narmada, and the Narmada was in speed. And so he sang a hymn to the mother, Narmada, and she became calm. And then he entered the cave where his guru was waiting for him. And his guru was waiting for him. How? He was waiting for him in Samadhi. So the guru also knew that this pupil will come to me. So his guru's name was Govindacharya. Govinda and Acharya. And why in Samadhi? Because, they say that there the clock stops. So you go in and then you can come out maybe after 1,000 years, who knows. So he sang a hymn again, and the guru roused himself out from the Samadhi. This Govinda, his guru, was a disciple of another great guru who was Gaudapada Charya. He was the one who wrote the gloss on the Mandukya Upanishad, which later Shankaracharya commented upon. That is also very terse and very kind of sublime. So he was in that kind of tradition. And soon, with a boy like this, he quickly learned the essence of all the scriptures. He got into the high states of realization. What he was going to preach in the future, he experienced all of them. I used to wonder whether that is possible itself in a body which has not yet kind of matured enough. But then throughout the spiritual literature, we do find very young, even children, having that highest experiences. That is, the body can hold that experience. It won't shatter. So he experienced, and then his guru told him, you proceed to Benares, Varanasi. Now, Varanasi was and still is, in a way, you can say, the citadel of learning, scriptures, of course. And he went there and he debated with all these various pandits, and he brought them around to his point of view. Amazing. And those pandits, they will not give any quarter in the arguments. So we can see how he had that kind of tremendous intellectual power, and not only power, a kind of a stamina. These debates could last for hours and days together. So they had to have a clear grasp of the entirety of the scriptures, what they're presenting in the arguments. And so he won all the pandits. All those who are kind of respectable, and also those who mattered. There was always opposition, and why not? He sang hymns to Shiva, composed and sang extemporaneously to Mother Annapurna. And some of these hymns are so sublime. We chant them often, at least not here, but one of that hymn was what I recited. But that hymn itself was composed by his disciple, Totakacharya, for his guru, Shankaracharya. So this was, at the same time, you have that kind of intellectuality, that spirituality. But he was extremely kind and compassionate. If knowledge makes you insulated from everything in the world, that is not knowledge. That is ignorance. So he's composing all these various hymns to all the gods and the goddesses, full of bhakti, devotion, and having that kindness and compassion for people around. That was amazing. And this is actually the test of jnana, knowledge, because it is not diametrically opposite to devotion. People think in the lower stages it appears like that. And so there in Varanasi, in Benares, he wrote the most sublime commentary on what is called the Brahma Sutras. These are the aphorisms of Badarayana that strung together the Upanishadic teachings, and he had written a commentary. And another legend says that, well, the sage Vyasa, one of the greatest teachers there, he appeared to him and in a guise of an ordinary person, scholar, and started debating with him on these various points found in the commentary. And he answered them all brilliantly, and Vyasa, Veda Vyasa, was so pleased. I'm going to give you a boon. I'm extending your life for another 16 years. There. Then began his, you can say, conquest of the quarters, Digvijaya. First, he from there he goes to what is called Prayag, slightly up north, or the old Allahabad. And there he meets Kumarila Bhatta, another Mimamsa scholar. That Mimamsa is the proper, is to discern, but in the earlier sections of the Vedas. The Vedas have two broad divisions. That which is of the work, karma, karma kanda, and then the knowledge, the Upanishads. The Vedas are, technically they are also called the Samhitas, the mantras, the Brahmanas, and the Upanishads, Aranyakas. So they had taken the earlier section. And but he was, because he had not honored his guru sufficiently, and this is one of the great lessons, he had opposed and gone against his guru's views, that is Kumarila Bhatta, to expiate the kind of sins or the faults. He was going to self-immolate himself. And he had piled a heap of husk and had lit it from the edge and there. So Shankaracharya said, wait, I want to debate with you. No, my time is up. You go to my student, and who was Mandana Mishra. If you defeat him, it's good as defeating me. So Shankaracharya left there and went to meet, and there was a great debate, and Shankaracharya won. In the meantime, it was not only debating with Vedic scholars, but also he was demolishing the Buddhistic and the Jaina doctrines. Buddhism and Jainism were offshoots of the Vedic religion, but they had disowned everything and they had started on their own separate ways. So he was merciless in attacking their doctrines. And there is another legend saying, if I defeat you, you either come over on my side, accept my philosophy, or go and self-immolate yourself. So there are many who said, oh no, we'll come over this side. There are some hardcore guys who said, no, we'll kill ourselves, better than to accept your doctrines. So that is the only charge that is leveled against him. But when you want to clean something, you got to sometimes throw away some of the things that you love also. You want to, if you hold it, it's going to clutter your life. You better leave it off. So he went around from the east, right, from Kamarupa till the west, that the Kalka that's now in Himachal Pradesh, Punjab, and Dwarka, and from north Kedarnath till the south Kanyakumari. That is something I simply cannot wrap my head around. At that young age, he must have been 14, 15 or 16. Yeah. That young age, this traditionally you got to walk. And in those days, there were no planes or trains. He was probably using country boats to transport himself wherever there were the waterways. But he was walking from place to place in major centers of learning. That is important. Like a center like Seattle, if it's good in one thing, it spreads its influence all over the place. So those centers of learning, he used to go walking, and by that time he had a few disciples, 4 of them. They were equally great. And then the other, like, these are the 4 principal ones, but he had, so he used to go with the big entourage. And he used to debate with them and win them over. And slowly, what was he debating about? He was trying to place before people the idea of non-dualism, which is difficult, We talk about non-dualism, but we are thoroughly dualistic in everything we do. Yes, everything we do, we are dualist. And to prove that your dualism is erroneous or wrong, that needs not only scriptural arguments, but also intellectual arguments and reasoning. He used to reason with people, and they had to see, what he says is right. Okay. Now, there's one speciality of Shankaracharya. He never committed the same mistake that Buddhism did. And what did Buddhism do? When Buddhism was getting royal patronage and there was a plethora of philosophies, they say there were about 30 schools of Buddhism in the initial years after Buddha's nirvana. And they had, there was no actual sharp distinction between what is called Hinduism and Buddhism and Jainism. All that. That came much later. Those labels were put. But they kept on destroying earlier philosophies or wrong philosophies, they thought. Trying to place their philosophy as the best and authentic, and everything else is destructive. And they went and breaking up things. This wasn't Shankaracharya. And that is a sign of a prophet, that he will harmonize everything, not break. As Christ says, I don't come to destroy. So this is what Shankaracharya, he never destroyed anybody's beliefs. He just showed them there's a higher level there that you need to go. So Swami Vivekananda says also, the Advaita system in its very beginning is non-destructive. And the Bhagavad Gita also says, do not disturb the faith of others. But through your life, be a kind of example and lead people towards higher. Na buddhi bhedam janayed. So that's a sloka. The one great difficulty in this philosophy, how does the infinite, that one reality, the absolute, has appeared as a relative. So you're saying, yeah, the Atman is there within. It's all glory, all immortality, it's all infinite, it's all existence. How did that infinite thing enter into a body which is yet limited? It's not possible. It's just impossible. The finite can hold the infinite? It's no. It goes against all logic. And this is where he brought the great doctrine of his Maya, and the you can say, explanation of the Maya is a doctrine of superimposition. Oh, it took me years to understand that great doctrine. How that is. So you see, what happens is as he began to undertake this work, first he harmonized psychology, cosmology, eschatology, ethics, and everything. As I say, he never came to destroy. He harmonized all of them within this idea of Maya. And briefly, it's a long process. It's a long explanation. But I and the you are completely of opposite nature, like light and darkness. So this I, what is this I? This I is superimposed on the you, and corresponding the you is superimposed on the I. There is the kind of contradictory kind of superimposition. This on this. So the Atman is superimposed on the body, etc. And the body is body and mind, etc. is superimposed on the I. And when we say I, generally we say, oh, I'm trying to find my I. I'm trying to search my I. What is this I? I've been searching and searching and searching, and I found it. Really, you will not find it. It's not possible. But you do have the sense of I. He includes in the I every other small I. Your I includes millions and billions of all the small I's in the world. I, not this I. This includes even the external world. Is some in a very philosophical way, it is connected to this I within you. If you want to search the I, you will find the universe. You will know the universe. So the body is full of the I. Every cell is full, has got the I. The mind, the intellect, and everything has got the I. Everything. Like we are, I say, here I am. But there are other beings within me called the microbiome. They also have their separate eyes, but there is no separateness there. All these small eyes are included in this, what I call I. This is superimposed on the Atman. That is, the entire world is superimposed on the Atman, and correspondingly the Atman is superimposed on this world. There it is. So this is in brief doctrine of superimposition. It's a very technical, I don't want to go into technicalities. Okay. So its entire force comes from the subjective side. Because he says, this world does not exist. Yeah, it does exist, but it's relative. It's an appearance. Later translators have translated as an illusion. It may have this kind of flavor, because in the Buddhistic doctrines of Maya, there was also this idea that the external world did not exist at all. Shankaracharya said, no, it does. You're dealing with it. It has a relative existence. It's called a Vyavaharika Jagat, relative reality. And then in this relative reality, there is something called the illusory reality called pratibhasika. Like, take for instance, color or hardness or softness and all these things, they are not really there. Like the sun rising and setting. What do you mean sun rising and setting? There's no such thing. Sun does not rise, but we see it, yeah. That's a structure of matter. How the laws that govern matter are actually giving us this sense of illusoriness. That, he says, is illusory. The structure of the matter is relative. And then he posited a higher order of reality called a paramarthika. It is the highest form of reality where there is no duality at all, where the subject and the object, I and the you, all dissolve. Okay? So this was, and saying if this has a relative reality here, constantly changing, then everything, including your beliefs in gods and goddesses and this and that, everything, your social structures, your rituals, your prayers, everything has relevance, relatively. And he was very devastating in his attacks on the karma as, you can say, aligned to knowledge, jnana. He said, no, you can. But he gave the precedence of karma in this world, because he said, yeah, this purifies your mind, and when you're purified, your mind is purified. What do you mean by purifying mind? It becomes unselfish. So the I that is linked to this whole world, the body, and the body is linked to the entire world, that has to become unselfish. From that selfishness, I, that is an illusion, he says. When you say that I am separate, that's an illusion. When you say I am the world, I am the universe, oh, that's good. And that can be done through karma or bhakti or yoga, etc. And then saying you are ready for the highest stage of knowledge, jnana. So this is how he did. So he never destroyed anything. He kept everything together. Okay, here you are. This is a great contribution. There are about 300 works attributed to him. Now he wrote some of them. The main ones, like I mentioned, the Brahma Sutras, and then the next one was the 10 commentaries on the 10 principal Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the various other primers, as you call, elementary books to understanding Vedanta, Upadesha Sahasri, Aparoksha Anubhuti, etc. So, and in those days, like, people ascribed it, but you can see his stamp on all this literature. There are some like Vivek Chodamani, they say it's doubtful whether he himself wrote it. But if he has not himself written it, then his disciples who were listening to him day and night were the ones who kind of wrote. And it's always done like that. They put all, they honor their guru by attributing it to him. And that is the tradition of this Advaita order. Like he harmonized also I'm from one of the branches of the monks that he organized. So he used to go around and he saw many yogis and many this and that. What are you practicing? He corrected them. He wrote also a commentary on the yoga philosophy, the yoga aphorisms. There it was. So he got them all together and gave them new rules and gave them new designations also. And he's saying, okay, you all kind of meet once every 12 years. Now it's becoming once every 6 years in that great Kumbh Mela. That's where everybody comes. So all the various denominations. So we are 10 of us, the Advaita monks. So we all come together. And so he organized monks. He organized society. He organized the rituals also. The various sects were all kind of at each other's throats. The worshippers of Vishnu and Shiva and the goddess and all this, ours is better and this and that. And there were tons of, you can say, scriptures. So he brought them all together. Hey, you don't have to fight against each other. These also have relative realities, don't worry. So he designed the pujas that we have today by bringing all these gods and goddesses together. You got to worship all of them. So the worshipper of Vishnu who did not like Shiva now is forced to worship Shiva also. Okay, there. So he broadened people's hearts and ideas about the Godhead like this. So this is how slowly, so he, like I say, he combined this relative reality called a Saguna Brahman. And not only this, he divinized it. He's saying it is the same form as that. It's an appearance of that absolute reality called Nirguna Brahman. So, and he showed that the Upanishads show that this reality that we see is actually divine. You saying it's yours or it is dull, it is stupid, it is insentient, that is an illusion. The world isn't an illusion. What you perceive is illusory. And he gives a famous example of a rope and a snake. So you will see the snake wherever there's a rope. You're mistaking the rope for a snake. So you're mistaking this for the relative aspect of that same Brahman, which is, it is here, it is there. So you don't have to go to heaven or hell or some other place. Go inside. Because, and that place, at that individual, the Atman, all planes, relative planes intersect. All planes, he said, all planes. So there it is, you find. So once you've broken that illusion, that knot, that I am separate and this world is insentient, that goes away, then everything becomes okay. So his explanation of the doctrine of Maya was like a double-edged sword. He cut away all the excrescences, that the unwanted things placed before humanity, the coherent system of Advaita. Today, though there are opponents, plenty, as I said, either you are for or against. But everywhere there's, in all dualistic philosophies also, there's an underpinning of Advaita. And he showed that, yeah, this is immanent as well as transcendent. And though we say that, yeah, Shankaracharya was great and all, we are saying it, but others won't say it. But then he showed that Advaita underpins everything. Every idea, every dualistic idea has Advaita. Advaita is non-dualism. Everything has. So in your day-to-day life, it can be harmonized with the Advaita. Your work, your ethics, and everything now can be harmonized. And this is what he did. He opened the doors to all sects and all philosophies. And you can have your own gods. You don't need to quarrel. But behind that God is this. And that was how he brought together all these things. So he showed that the one is within the many. And that is his great. It will take a few more thousand years for us to unravel and work out his entire works. Yes, it was amazing. As I said that a monk was telling me, ultimately he was a boy. He wrote all these things. That boy really is unique. Shankaracharya. And I've been struggling all these years to even understand a part of his great doctrine. And this is his contribution. And every subsequent teacher that came after him have honored him. Shri Ramakrishna, Swamiji, everybody. They have said. So he placed before the world the doctrine of Advaita, which now is essential because the idea of the world is changing. Initially, there was religion, especially in the Judeo-Christian traditions. What the world is was taught by the tradition, Judeo-Christian tradition. And now science just veered away from those explanations. And they found something different. And the world is completely different from what you guys are telling us about. And now the only explanation that can satisfy the modern man and the modern science is Advaita. Nothing else. No dualistic. My God is so loving. So loving. He loves you. He will save you. Yeah, he's saving me, but he's killing up all these other people there. What about that? No, he loves you more. No, that's no God. So people have been questioning theology. And when they question hard enough, they will find it being demolished. That's the time when Advaita comes in. And they say that he based all his arguments on the Upanishadic teachings. But he made it so rational. He harmonized, he strung together all the teachings in a way which, as I said, it's coherent, which is good enough for the future also. So he was at Colossus, striding down the pages of history for years and years, and he will do that in the future as well. That is Shankaracharya. His birthday will be celebrated on May 12th. That's the reason why. This is kind of in advance notice. So we remember him. Om, peace, peace, peace. And now for the questions. Can you please give us an example of how we are mistaken the rope for a snake in our daily life? Yeah, you are thinking you are like you're Connie. That's a no. That itself is that's a mistake. That's the way you're seeing the snake instead of that when you say the Atman alone exists. So in the Atman, in the reality, there is no I. That is have to be understood. All the I is here, and this, as I said, this I is linked to everything else in the universe. Everything. But where is this I? That itself it's showing you the illusory nature of. I. You try to search this I where it is, you cut yourself open. I mean, you don't do it, but if somebody else cuts you open, you will not find this I. It's there, it is not there. So it's an appearance. And that's the reason why they say you try to kind of go down and try to unravel this. Like when you try to unravel, then you get the whole package. Then you take the package and okay. So that is how we mistake one thing for another. Okay. What is the difference between awareness and conscience? Oh, these words are kind of used interchangeably. I believe you mean consciousness. Awareness is a quality of consciousness. Awareness cannot be grasped, yet it is there. So, but when it works out on the mind, it becomes, you're aware. At the same time, the mind also has its fluctuations. Like the Upanishad says, I was absent-minded, I did not see it. I was absent-minded, I did not hear it. So what's absent-mindedness? Is awareness absent? No, your mind is kind of diverted to something else for that time being. You're not aware of things. Like we are here and there are all of us sitting down here, but we are aware of each other. At the same time, but we are not aware of millions and millions of bacteria and germs and viruses and insects and spiders and all these things are there. They don't exist. They do, but you are not aware of it. Because those things also have consciousness. So awareness is the quality of consciousness acting on the world. Okay. Okay, rest is all as usual. Pranam, pranam. Okay. So we'll take your questions out here, so that will help those who are in a hurry to.
Can I ask now?
Yeah, we can ask. Yeah. No. Oh, you want? Okay, ask now.
I mean, for the first time, so I don't know what the process is.
Yeah.
So is there an exercise we can do like on a daily basis to improve ourselves?
Oh yes, there's plenty. Take any self-help books; they fill all the shelves. But depends on what you want to improve yourself into. Oh yeah, sure. That we can discuss. We start with Swami Vivekananda's books. Oh, okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.